Okay. Okay, so we're recorded. So like I said, my name is Sarah Holden. I'm an herbalist, I'm a botanist, and I live in Missoula, Montana. And I have been using um, essential oils and natural products for about 10 years, since my first daughter was born. And my friend Christina introduced me to essential oils, oh God, in the late 90s. She tried to get me to use them, and I just thought they were all a hoax until I became open, and here I am now, right? So tonight we're going to specifically talk about Copaiba or beta-caryophyllene, and we're also going to discuss cannabidiol. So like I said, if you've got questions, when I share my screen, I can't see anybody. So we'll just hold off the questions to the end, or else if you just unmute yourself, if you've got something pressing you want to ask, go ahead. And then maybe we can open it up for some questions and discussion at the end. Okay? So let's see, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Anybody give me a nod? Yes? Okay. I'm going to minimize you guys and go back to here. So let's get started. So talking about the endocannabinoid system, we really cannot talk about it without addressing homeostasis. So if you have never heard of homeostasis, just think of it as how the body keeps itself in balance. And it's basically referring to the regulation of conditions within the body, such as our body temperature, our blood sugar level. And I'm just going to ask you, if you haven't muted yourself, to go ahead and do that, because I don't know how to do it. I'm going to do it right now, guys. Sorry. Mute. I'm going to mute Amy. Mute this other person. Okay, I think everybody's muted. Okay. So it's the body's way of, okay. Whoever is calling in on your phone, can you mute yourself? Who needs to be muted? Oh, this person. Mute. Okay, I think I got him. All right, back. Here we go. I'm trying to take this out because it takes up some of the picture. Okay, so it's your way of regulating your blood sugar, your body temperature, and your water content, and even more. But those basic things. So like when you are deficient in water, your body is thirsty. You develop a thirst, and so it makes you drink more water. When you are in an environmental condition where it's cold out, then your body does something within itself to regulate the body temperature and warm you up. So it's constantly trying to make sure that the body is functioning properly. We need to kind of remain within these certain parameters, and that is how we keep ourselves from not getting sick, right? And to help us be these amazing beings that we are. So you can kind of think of it like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Everything in our body needs to be not too hot. Everything needs to be not too cold, but just right. So we maintain this homeostasis by using kind of a negative feedback mechanism, and that means that everything in our body is monitored carefully so that when something changes, we can naturally correct it. So this is where the endocannabinoid system comes in. And if you see here, you can kind of read through this, but basically what I want you to know is that the endocannabinoids system has these receptor sites. And so we call them the cannabinoid receptors. So we refer to them as CB1 and CB2. And the receptors basically communicate to induce this physiological response that is found throughout our body, right? And so your brain, all of our vital organs, our immune cells, and even our connective tissues contain endocannabinoid receptors, these CB receptors, okay? And these receptors are tasked with maintaining our homeostasis. And when we have those external environmental issues going on, then that will cause fluctuations in your body. And then that's when the body works harder on one side or the other. Maybe you might see different deficiencies in the bodies, maybe different excesses in your body. And that's just your response, right? So immune response, inflammatory response, memory, and even our appetite are often influenced by these receptors. So really, they are a vital link between the brain and the rest of the body, and just create this communication pathways for ourselves. So what's really cool about this is that this is relatively new science. Okay, let's see. Who do we have that needs to be muted now? I'm going to just go back out here. If you are just getting on, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself. It looks like Holly's iPhone. I'm just muting you. I think everybody else is muted. Okay, people. But so this is relatively new science. About 30 years ago, 3 decades ago, scientists literally stumbled on our endocannabinoid system. And so what we have found is that within this cannabinoid system, these 2 receptor sites called CB1 and CB2 really play this key role in the balance of our body, the homeostasis of our body. So if you just remember, and if you're taking notes, you could just put CB1. Just remember that CB1 affects the brain and the nervous system. Okay? CB2 receptors are basically the peripheral areas of the body and outside of that central nervous system. So really, they're primarily working on the endocrine system, our lymph system, the immune system, the skin, the gut. And if you are going to be going through a surgery, or maybe you've just suffered a trauma, you're traveling, or you're working in a hospital or a nursing home or around sick kids, by stimulating that CB2 receptor, you are essentially helping to enhance the body protection. And we also are finding that you heal faster and quicker, right? By stimulating that CB2 receptor. So homeostasis is the key here, okay? And if we are listening to our bodies, and if we understand our foundational health, we understand when our body is out of whack. We understand when we eat something that doesn't agree with us. We understand when lack of sleep is maybe messing with us. We understand why, maybe if we have bouts of hot temperatures or cold temperatures, maybe we don't drink enough water, but you can physically feel that, those effects. And so by really working on your self-care and your foundational health, you can use the products that we're going to talk about tonight to benefit you in a very impactful way. So this is just kind of some different benefits through each receptor. site. And so really, if you just remember that the receptors, the CB1 and CB2, are those communication pathways for the cells, okay? And so if you are trying to address skin or cardiovascular, or maybe your immune system, respiratory, gut, you are going to want to focus using products that can focus on the CB2 receptor sites, okay? So this is the endocannabinoid system here. And basically, we have a cannabinoid site here, receptor site, and we send the message, whatever that may be, to the cells, and on those cells are these receptor sites. And we have neurotransmitters all over the body, and they are great ways to transmit information. We use phytocannabinoids, we use endocannabinoids to support our body systems. And endocannabinoids are actually made within the body. Our body produces a certain amount of cannabinoids. Phytocannabinoids are made in plants. And so when we use cannabis, for instance, that is a phytocannabinoid, and we use that to take into our body, use it medicinally for therapeutic benefit. We also have synthetic cannabinoids, and these kind of were first on the market, actually, really because of regulatory issues. And we still have synthetic cannabinoids on the market. In fact, they're increasing because it's cheaper to create them in a lab. It's an easier regulatory out for a lot of companies. So you definitely need to be aware, just like you are with essential oils, what quality of CBD products you are seeking out, and kind of looking into the backstory, just like you do with any other products or essential oils. So I recommend no synthetic cannabinoids and really focusing on phytocannabinoids, and then boosting your endocannabinoids in your system. So the way we can do that is by celebrating the entourage effect. And if you've never heard of the entourage effect, just think of it as this whole plant effect, okay? So the synergy created when all of the constituents within the plant are available, then they become capable of really working beneficially in the body. Okay, so being an herbalist, I always try to use this whole plant remedy, if you will, with my clients, depending on what plant we're using. Some plants, only certain parts are beneficial, but when you look at cannabis, cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, when you look at cannabis, the entourage effect is really what people are talking about and studying right now, because we're finding out that maybe the isolating of different chemistries within the cannabis plant is not that beneficial like we were thinking. So when you make a salad, right, do you just use the lettuce? No, you want to add veggies and maybe nuts and a great dressing. Maybe you want to put cheese or meat in there, right? Some egg. By using a full spectrum product, you're going to help supply those beneficial interactions between the major and the minor phytocannabinoids. So in my opinion, nature has really provided cannabinoids and terpenes and other healing constituents through cannabis and even through other herbs. And that is the best way to treat the whole body, in my opinion. Of course, there's a lot of legality issues with marijuana, with hemp still. And so, like I said, that's why we see a lot of pharmaceutical companies and even large corporations that are kind of jumping on the CBD train right now and promoting kind of these synthetic cannabinoids. So I also mentioned terpenes. And this is a list or a table, if you will, of some common terpenes that we find in cannabis. They're also in other plants as well. But for the sake of this conversation, when you go into a dispensary, usually you're hit with a ton of different products. It's pretty overwhelming. And unfortunately, a lot of times, I would say the mission of the dispensary is to sell THC, sell CBD. I would love it if we could start seeing these dispensaries more as a wellness center. The wellness industry is just getting bigger and bigger. And so if we are looking at long-term, at big picture, it would be amazing if we could walk into a dispensary and be able to get kind of a head-to-toe evaluation, right? And be able to figure out what is going on in the body, where do we need to work, what therapies are needed, what is excess, what is deficient within the whole body system, right? And then using terpenes, cannabis, CBD, BCP, using different natural solutions, essential oils too, to benefit and to treat the pain or the different kind of root causes, right? I feel like now if you walk into a dispensary, a lot of the quote unquote bud tenders don't really know what they're talking about. And you hear them say, yeah, you can use CBD on your baby's butt for diaper rash. And yes, you can, give 450 milligrams to your dog. And kind of it goes on. And so it's kind of a little nerve-wracking. And I hope that we can get education out there to help change this model. So what we're going to talk about today is CBD, THC, and BCP. So we'll break this all down, but something to know is that cannabidiol is actually very low in most hemp products. And when you have products that are high in THC, then you usually see the CBD is a lot lower as well. And also, cannabidiol does not actually act directly on the CB receptors. And so a lot of times people will complain that the CBD is not effective or it comes on really quickly and only lasts a little bit, or it's just real minor feeling, okay? And so that means that those people need a boost. And that's where the beta-caryophyllene will come in, and we'll talk about that in a minute. THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, is basically how you get that high, right? And it's because it stimulates that CB1 receptor. So it goes straight to the brain, straight to the central nervous system, and creates those psychoactive, psychotropic effects. It actually has some therapeutic benefit as well. And again, if you're using it as a whole plant, you'll get that kind of entourage effect. The problem with THC is that it's not legal at that federal level. It's still considered a regulated narcotic, and it's not legal in every state yet either. So it's recreational in many states, but not all 50. It's definitely not recreational in Montana. So that's kind of, people have kind of moved away from that, and they're really focusing on the CBD. Because right now, with the Farm Bill and some changes, we are able to sell CBD products as long as we don't have THC in them. Beta-caryophyllene or caryophyllene, however you want to say it, which is BCP, has no CB1 interaction. It has very similar benefits as other cannabinoids. And it has direct interaction with CB2 receptor sites. And it has a very high amount of therapeutic benefits. So we'll go into these specifically, each one. But first, I just want to touch on synthetic cannabinoids versus the whole plant cannabis. So if you guys have ever heard of Marinol, it was brought about, I think like 2008, maybe 2010. They brought this out, and it's actually, it comes from marijuana, but it is developed as a synthetic cannabinoid, and it is geared specifically to work on the endocannabinoid system. So it basically, with its intention, is to replicate the attributes of the cannabis plant. So Marinol is basically used for nausea, and they give it to chemo patients that are having cancer treatments and stuff. So it's really just designed in the lab to be able to bind to the CB1 receptor. Okay, so the first synthetic beta-caryophyllene was actually made in 1964, and it wasn't really until 2008 that a German and a Swiss doctor discovered how to formulate the drugs to work with the endocannabinoid system, and then specifically how to formulate them to target either the CB1 receptor or the CB2 receptor. And so once they did this, then we actually were able to classify beta-caryophyllene as a cannabinoid. Beta-caryophyllene is actually a terpene, and I'll get into that a little bit, but it kind of has like two hats that it wears. Synthetic drugs are developed to bind to the CB1 receptors. They kind of mimic that THC high, and oftentimes you'll see them in herbal stores and gas stations, and they're kind of sold as like a smoking blend. There's a product that's not legal in the US, but it's very active in Canada and Europe. It's called Sativex, and it's also a synthetic cannabinoid. It is extracted from marijuana, and it has a 1-to-1 ratio of THC and CBD. Sometimes you'll see those ratios on the bottle. This product, it targets both of the receptor sites, and it's basically given to patients for MS, arthritis, fibromyalgia, things like that. So in the US, it is available, but only in clinical trials. Okay, so there's been extensive research in Israel that has led to a synthetic CBD drug, which is designed specifically to target those CB2 receptors. And so there's just a lot of things coming on the market still with the synthetics. So my suggestion to you is to just really know the source. If you're using a synthetic CBD, you are not having the attributes from the natural whole plant, such as BCP, and then so you don't get that synergy, right, of the whole plant or the entourage effect. And unfortunately, the synthetics can have really detrimental side effects, as you can read here. And another thing with synthetics, the dosing can be really crazy, because that's something we have not figured out yet with all the CBD craze, is the dosing. The synthetic drugs really focus, that are focusing on CBD, they don't have those other constituents of that natural plant, and so that can't actually counteract with the adverse side effects. So it can't help to regulate the dosage, and it's really easy to actually overdose on the synthetic drugs. Cost can be an issue as well. Okay, so let's see. If we look at THC and we compare that with hemp, THC interacts with both the CB1, and the CB2 receptor sites. And it also stimulates those psychoactive effects. Again, the regulatory issue, the legal challenge with THC has really led us to using hemp for our CBD source, right? So hemp is basically an agricultural product. We've long used cannabis for hemp fiber, hemp seeds, for their oils. The leaves have been used for juice and medicinal purposes for sure. But don't let anyone fool you. Marijuana and hemp are the same plant, okay? It's just the uses. And so because of the different uses with this cannabis plant, we call it different names, and it's really because of the regulatory and the stigma that marijuana has, right? So some cannabis strains have really been bred to breed out the THC, so to speak. And they have been altered so that the different strains have either a minimal level of the THC, and then so the CBD is higher. And so that's just, how the breeding programs go for the different strains, okay? So we have some strains that are really high in THC and CBDs, and then we have some strains that are coming from what we call hemp, and those are very low in THC. In fact, the Farm Bill, which kind of created all the craze that allows you to sell products labeled as CBD if you have less than 0.3% THC showing. So even if they tell you that CBD from hemp does not have THC, it most likely does have it. It's just at that negligible level. So I can't tell you if you can pass a drug test taking CBD with from hemp. I just don't know. I don't know like what levels it would show up. So, okay, let's go next. Cannabidiol, okay, CBD. This is derived from the hemp cannabis plant, which is also known as marijuana. It is not an essential oil. It is a botanical extract. It has amazing pain relieving effects. The list is kind of off the chart, all of the stuff that they're claiming CBD can affect. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's, chemistries are different. And so cannabidiol, can affect you on different levels. I personally use CBD. My husband uses it in a topical fashion for kind of pain, and he uses it for his sore wrists. And we add Copaiba and we add frankincense to that topical CBD, and it's pretty effective. Internally, I don't use it as much because I have found almost better results using Copaiba. So moving on, this is kind of, I hope you can see this, but this shows like there's over like 100, 140, I think I've read, different cannabinoids. And these are just some of them. The delta-9 THCs are pretty active when it comes to things like seizures, inflammatory issues, cancers. But you can see CBD, all of the different things that it is supposedly therapy for. One thing that I don't like about CBD right now, in my opinion, is just the dosing is all over the map, right? It's just all over. And it's very hard to go into a dispensary and figure out the dosing. And some products are very high and some don't give you any information on dosing. or serving size. It just kind of depends, I think, on the brand. And really, there's no regulatory authority yet. You know, the FDA can say if you can put it in food or not, if it can be kind of a supplementation product, but there's no third-party testing. And so right now, currently, as CBD goes, it's just not meeting that pure therapeutic grade standard that I really like to follow with my essential oil products. And so, you know, you might want to look for, if you are wanting to use CBD or you currently are, check with that company and see what their mission is, how they're sustainably bringing this product to market. Also, you could look and see if they have the testing, third-party testing available, you know, transparent on their website. And so there are several CBD companies that now are providing that GMCS testing. Now, most people can't read it anyway, but the fact that they do third-party testing, I think helps kind of set them above the rest, right? Another negative I would say about CBD is that it's a really costly product for the amount of benefit that you get from it. I've seen like 30 milliliters going for $150. You know, it's kind of all over the board. Remember, we like the whole plant, the entourage effect. So these are just some of the products that we see out there. And like, I love walking into the dispensary, and now you'll see like the bath bombs. They're the CBD bath bombs that are like $30. And definitely CBD is not something you need to take a bath in. You're not really going to get the effect, the therapeutic effect from it by taking a bath in it. So it just kind of seems like they're just adding CBD into everything. I don't know if this is like fake news, but I saw on Facebook a couple days ago that like Hardee's is going to have a CBD burger on 420, which I think is pretty funny. So these are just some of the products just to show you that they're like everywhere, and the dosing guidelines are everywhere, because there are no guidelines, I should say, but like this one says 10 milligrams per day. This one is 75 milligrams. This one is 300 milligrams. It just kind of depends. You have to look, and hopefully they will have some kind of dosing on the back. But body wash, probably not something you need to pay for the CBD in. So beta-caryophyllene is what we're going to talk about. It's found in a lot of different plants, but for today's talk, we're going to talk about Copaiba or Copaiba. I love this essential oil, and I have found great benefit taking it internally and using it with CBD and without CBD. So basically, it's a sesquiterpene. And because it has an affinity and an effect on the endocannabinoid system, it is also classified as a phytocannabinoid. It is also considered a dietary cannabinoid by the FDA. That's why doTERRA can make it so has the label to support ingesting it. They also make a gel capsule of the Copaiba, which is real easy to take. But Melissa, ylang ylang, black pepper, even yarrow palm has beta-caryophyllene in it. Marijuana has beta-caryophyllene in it. It's just at a really low amount when it is working as that kind of helper to the CBD. And so what happens, how it works in the body, is that it has this CD2 direct interaction. It doesn't even directly bind to the CB1. It just focuses on that CD2 receptor. So you get this amazing therapeutic benefit on your immune system, and your skin, and many different benefits. And so that's why I feel like it's a better product to use than CBD. And we'll talk a little bit more about why, but cost is one reason. You can get Copaiba for 14 cents a drop. It comes out to about $35 wholesale. So it's a great tool that you can add to your medicine cabinet. I have clients that are using CBD. I have clients that are using BCP, and I have clients that are using them both. But I will say several of my clients that are just using the Copaiba are all having amazing benefits. And they're just seeing their pain diminish. One woman has RA and she has had amazing results. She's like, I get out of bed. I don't have to wait for 20 minutes while I prepare and ready my body to stand up after a full night's sleep. So beta-caryophyllene is a really productive phytocannabinoid in the body, okay? So even though it's considered a terpene, because it directly works on the endocannabinoid system and specifically targets that CB2 receptor, it really helps aid in reduction of pain and inflammation. It's amazing. So beta-caryophyllene has been studied up the wazoo. There's more than 1,000 peer-reviewed studies on PubMed. If you don't know about pubmed.gov, it's a great place to go if you're like me and you love reading scientific peer-reviewed journals. But it's a great place to find that science behind all of this information we're talking about tonight. So there has not been a lot of studies on CBD just because of the regulatory issues. And I'm sure we're going to start seeing it move in that direction where we'll start seeing more and more studies on CBD. And then as THC becomes legal more and more, I'm sure we'll be, moving to changes there as well. So, if you're suffering from any of these really root cause type, I'm obviously not very compliant in this talk, but cancer, MS, arthritis, things like that, BCP might be a really great tool for your client. So again, we can ingest all these in different things. Even clove and rosemary has CBD, but the thing is that the CBD, or I'm sorry, the BCP. Oops, sorry, I muted myself, guys. The BCP is very high in Copaiba, and so that's why it's super effective. Okay, so, here's what I was talking about. So minor research so far on CBD. Really right now, they're really talking about dosing. And so the studies that we're seeing come out are all in regards to dosage. And the two studies that are pretty popular right now are in regards to cancer treatment, but they're at really mega doses. So 1,000 milligrams a day is way too much. It's crazy. So obviously it's having some beneficial effect on cancer treatment. If I had cancer, I'd probably be like, okay. But for a daily thing, just using it for chronic pain or skin or immune system, you do not need to be using even the smaller dosage. So really, if you think about, you can kind of use this dosing for CBD or BCP, okay? So if you remember that 45 milligrams is equal to 1 drop of Copaiba essential oil, then this will probably read out a little better for you. So you can take kind of a moderating dose where you're just taking it daily, a low dose every day, to moderate your disease, pain, bowel issues, things like that, anything that has that pro-inflammatory response. You can up it to 50 milligrams for any kind of depression or mood issues. And CBD and BCP are both effective with seizures, And so you would up it even more to about 100 milligrams. Really 100 to 150 milligrams for kind of like acute things that are happening is probably the highest you need to go. We have about 55%. Oh. Deborah Lynn, could you mute yourself? We're getting some talk back here. I'm going to figure out how to do it for you. Let's see. Oh, she got it. Okay, thanks. Okay. So remember that Copaiba is the highest plant that we have found to the highest amount of BCP at about 55%. Copaiba is also really high in the sesquiterpene aspect at 98%, which is really similar to some of our other oils like sandalwood and vetiver. So Copaiba is just this powerhouse, you guys, and like taking it every day, I think can be such a benefit for you. I wanted to also just quickly touch on turmeric, which is a great added essential oil that you can add to a capsule and take that with Copaiba every day. You want to look at your weight. And so if you're like, 120 or less, I would recommend like 1 drop a day. And if you are over that weight, then you could go to 2 drops a day. Or you could try less is more. You can always take away. And I know some people have taken too much and they get kind of a warm hug feeling or a euphoric feeling. I'm not sure if any of you have had any issues of taking too much Copaiba. We can chime in at the end. But turmeric is full of turmerones, which are neuroprotective. And so just another great way to lift up your cells, prop them up, and support them. If you take this protocol, the 2 drops of Copaiba and turmeric, or you can take 1 drop, like I said, you will like start to feel that pain easing and your discomfort lessening for sure. Usually people feel things within at least 30 days, sometimes less. It just depends on your body and your body chemistry. I love using essential oils in this form and Copaiba in this way because it also is really high in antioxidants, which then really helps to protect your body from free radicals, right? You can use Copaiba topically. It doesn't really have much of a benefit aromatically, unless maybe you put some in your hands and take a big whiff that way to kind of just help with some anxiety. But really your best bang with Copaiba is in a capsule or taking it sublingually for that whole body benefit. So doTERRA essential oils are my favorite oil because of their backstory, their sustainability, their third-party testing, their certified pure therapeutic grade, and the fact that they really complement a lot of our other wellness tools that we have. And they are really an inexpensive tool in our toolbox if you look at it as using it per drop, right? So really it is pennies per drop to use a lot of these products versus going out and getting bug repellent and cough syrup and headache medicine. And with all of the science that's coming out about these over-the-counter and the NSAIDs, how they are affecting our liver and our kidneys, it's really, I feel like people are just primed and ready to make these switches to holistic products. So with essential oils, you can use them 3 ways: aromatically, topically, and internally. Copaiba is 14 cents a drop. It's roughly what it comes out to. It is a really amazing, beneficial oil liver antioxidant support, cardiovascular health. It really helps you sustain that proper immune response. And so it just holds up your immune system so nicely that you can really make it through a whole year, like I have, without getting a real sickness to speak of. Digestive support. It is so amazing for the gut and skin. It really does help clear up skin. My daughter is a preteen. She's starting to I had severe cystic acne growing up all through high school, and my daughter, I'm afraid, is going to suffer from that as well. And we made a Copaiba essential oil roller with some melaleuca and some argan oil, and we use that on her acne, and it's been really helpful. We also have other blends that are good for acne as well, but Copaiba is really great. Okay, and then the last thing I really just wanted to touch on is that doTERRA uses 4 different species of the Copaiba genus, which this is a tree that grows in the Amazon, and they sustainably harvest it there in Brazil. And it is tested, and they actually distill the ola resin and extract the beta-caryophyllene from that. And so it is very effective, and it's not just using the ola resin. There are a lot of studies coming out on Copaiba specifically, not just beta-caryophyllene, but Copaiba specifically, and they really focus on those CB2 direct associations. And while cannabis does have BCP, you just want to remember that it's in low concentrations. And so if you want to continue using CBD and you want to try adding Copaiba to it, you should experience an enhanced effect, so to speak. If you're not getting benefit from using CBD, then I suggest stopping that and try using Copaiba and see where you get with that. If you are here and you're new and you don't have a doTERRA account, we really have a great program. It's like a doTERRA, it's like a Costco membership, and you can get a wholesale membership for a year, and then you have 25% off the retail price. And so that would make your doTERRA Copaiba $35 instead of like $47. We give you a lot of support with our Widespread Oil Wellness group, and we would love to have you join us and just be supported within this community. We do all kinds of classes and outreach and have a lot of fun together. And if you sign up tonight with me, I'll give you a free Copaiba and turmeric roller blend to take home. I'll have to mail it to you, obviously. But let me just take this off of share, and we can open it up for discussion or questions, or we can just call it a night. I know it's late for some of you guys, but I hope you guys, do we all have like spinning eyeballs, or was that a bit much for you, or do you feel a little better? Buffy says yes, good. Okay. Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Awesome.
So, Sarah, you mentioned that, and I know this isn't exactly compliant, but you mentioned that BCP is good for maybe arthritis and MS. Would it have any effect on Parkinson's?
It could. Yeah, and so I actually use Copaiba on a gentleman at the nursing home when I volunteer and do my hand massages. We use Copaiba on him. He has Parkinson's, and it's amazing how it does help with the tremor. You can tell, like, he'll be shaking and I'll do one hand, and that hand while I'm doing the next will be a lot less than what it was before. So definitely, I would say it could have an affinity for benefiting that, because it's going through that correct pathway.
Right. And especially using them topically, there's no dosage.
Yeah, totally.
Considerations to.
Right. You just want to make sure you're diluting it.
Okay. And is CBD oil legal everywhere?
So the Farm Bill allows it to be sold everywhere. That's why we see it. As long as it has that minimum amount of 0.3% THC, it can be kind of like when McDonald's said it was 100% beef, but it was only like 10% beef or whatever, but they could still say that. That's kind of what they can say. They can say it's the CBD product as long as the THC level is below that 0.3%. And that's why we see it in like Walgreens and
right.
the gas station sells it. You know, those are the places you want to be wary of. And that's why I just hope that we can maybe go into our communities and reach out to dispensaries and see if they're open to kind of a wellness model, because they are capturing so many people coming into their stores that if we could get in front of them to help them understand how CBD works, how they can use it, how they can add benefit by just adding this $35 bottle.
Right.
250 drops, it would last for a little while. Okay, anybody else?
I have a quick question, Sarah.
Yes, Madeline.
That was so informative. I'm wondering if you can use Copaiba on dogs.
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. And you can use CBD on dogs too. So, there's also a vet that's using Copaiba on horses. So you would just want to like really downplay the dosage,
Right.
And maybe you could give it to them in a capsule form, or maybe in their food, mix it up with some wet food or something like that, or use it topically. All right, anybody else?
I've got a question.
Yes, Buffy.
You talked about the protocols for the day with the turmeric and the Copaiba and a couple drops. Do you remember offhand what the Copaiba soft gels are? Like how many drops are in there, or milligrams or anything? Just like one Copaiba soft gel a day then, would you say? Just really?
I think I could run and grab my bottle.
No, don't run it.
I know it's a 60-day supply, and it's a 30-day supply, and there's 60 in there. That's right.
I feel like they were 150 milligrams. Does that
let me look and see if I
from earlier today?
So that's a lot for a daily
Copaiba. Yeah. I would only recommend with those taking one. I was just trying to see Copaiba soft gel, so I was gonna ask Uncle Google here. It says, I'm just downloading the PIP here. Just a minute.
It's 120 milligrams.
120. Yeah, so I would say as long as you're not going, like Dr. Hill says, as long as you're not going over 150 milligrams, you probably will maintain kind of that nice ease effect. I know there's Carissa on here. She was taking a little too much, but she's also, her weight is a lot lower than average. I think she's like 110 pounds or something, but she was taking too much Copaiba, and she was getting kind of this real euphoric feeling and kind of warm feeling. And so what we did with her is we took it down. And then I think everything is copacetic now. So I always tell people start with less, and then you can add more. Or if she was she's very in tune with her body. And so she could tell that her body was changing after she started taking the Copaiba. So she was able to take it down a notch and then have a good balance.
Hi, I'm on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. That is exactly true. And since then, I've been able to increase it a little bit. Okay. And it's okay. It's okay now. My body had to adjust. Oh, sorry, that was my dog. my body had to adjust to it. But yeah, it definitely gave me that warm hug feeling, and it was really weird because I'd never had that before. So it was fine. It wasn't like, disturbing, but I was like, oh, this is unusual.
Right.
And yeah, you told me what it was, so I backed off a little bit.
Okay. And and now you're kind of back up again because you're really good at listening to your body and understand what.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can tell, and I can tell when I take it, and it's kind of true with all the essentials. When I put them in my body, I can feel the chemistry happening. So I'm very susceptible, very in tune. So yeah, I know I'm at the right dose of the Copaiba now, increasing it a little bit. So just because you're there in the beginning doesn't mean you have to remain there.
Right. Awesome. Thanks. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, I'm going to post this, hopefully. Oh yeah, it's recording. I'm going to post this. I'll post it in our WOW group if that's helpful for you. And if you're not in our Widespread Oil Wellness group and you would like this recording, you can email me at Montana, spelled out goddess, @gmail.com, montanagoddess@gmail.com. I'll put it here in the chat, and then I can send you this presentation if you want it. Okay?
I'm just looking in the chat. Can Copaiba be used for thyroid problems?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it can. And we have other essential oils as well that can be used for thyroid. But really, there's all sorts of things. Thyroid problems, you want to figure out if you're hyper or hypo, because you're going to have different symptoms and things, and just know how to, know that kind of first. And then also, I always recommend to people, if you think you're having a thyroid issue, definitely need to go and get your labs done, a full workup. And sometimes like your iodine levels are low and thyroid issues from that. Sometimes it's just something can be off, and you can exhibit those thyroid symptoms. Okay, anybody else? All right, guys, thanks for spending an hour with me. And I hope that you guys go out in your communities and share the powers of this Copaiba.
Thank you for your wisdom, Sarah.
Right.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a good night.
Everybody.